New season, new chaos in college football.
Let's go!
Big stage, big opportunity.
This Labor Day weekend, the wildness lives on ABC, ESPN, and the all-new ESPN app.
What a way to start!
Featuring top 10 teams like Clemson, Notre Dame, Alabama, and LSU, and Bill Belichick's debut at North Carolina.
It's so special when these teams collide.
Don't miss a lineup filled with electric matchups.
Welcome back to college football.
Kickoff week presented by Modelo. Labor Day weekend on ESPN and ABC. Also available to stream on the all-new ESPN app.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contrast. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Introducing the perfect companion to your morning listening routine. AG1's clinically backed formula is now flavor-packed with 3 new delicious flavors: tropical, berry, and citrus. Start the day on a high note with probiotics that taste like the tropics. Mix it up with micronutrients that taste like berry or citrus. And take it all the way back with the classic, AG1 Original, with notes of pineapple and vanilla. Do your health a flavor, or 4, with AG1 Next Gen, the daily health drink. Learn more at drinkag1.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Ghost of Tsushima Yotei Gamecast. I'm your host, Andrew Zink, and I'm super excited to welcome you back for episode 13, which is Act 2, Tales of Tsushima side quests. So these are going to be all the remaining side quests in Act 2, Toyotama region of Tsushima. We've already finished all of the side quests for the main allies that you can recruit, Sensei Ishikawa, Lady Masuko, Norio, Kenji, and Yuna. So yeah, super excited to get through the rest of these quests here. So I'll just dive right in by starting with the one and only quest, the one and only side quest in Act 2 that's located in Atsuna Prefecture. So this quest is called A Final Request. And it starts by arriving at Lucky Genzo's Inn in Atsuna Prefecture. And you arrive to a bunch of Ronin who are attacking it. So it looks like a pretty dismal scene here where it's like there's a bunch of dead civilians around and blood on the ground, and there's Ronin chasing some live civilians, and you try to defeat them before they can kill anyone else. So eventually you defeat all the Straw Hats that are attacking Lucky Genzo's Inn. So you go inside where you start the quest, and you find an old woman who is dying from her wounds inside. Very sad scene. And she says that the Ronin took all of the men and her husband Oda with them to a gorge in the north. And she basically asks you to go save him. And then she passes away right there. So very sad. And then the quest starts. So Jin sets out for what he knows to be Hollow Gorge, and he says that people use it for smuggling. So he's familiar with it, and he just knows that's where the Straw Hats are holed up. So as Jin, when you arrive there, it's not too far of a travel to get there. So eventually you arrive there, there's this beautiful golden sunlight that is like the atmosphere you're going to be playing in. And you can stealth this whole quest. It's pretty out in the open, but there's some grass you can hide in. I think a couple spots you can jump off of air assassinations. So you clear this camp and then you free the prisoners, but her husband Oda is not there, unfortunately. So yeah, then you talk with one of the prisoners who's there, and he says that they took Oda and the other prisoners east to a cliff camp. A camp at the base of a cliff near the river. And one of the prisoners mentions that the Straw Hats who attacked the inn were survivors of the Yarikawa Rebellion. So that's an interesting tidbit there. Yeah, so then you ride out to this cliffside camp, and honestly, it's a pretty quick ride, and it's a pretty quick fight. You just clear the Ronin that are there, and it's pretty unremarkable. There's not really too much to say about it. But once again, there's no Oda there. So you're still not completing the quest here. So then you speak with a prisoner who says thank you, And he says that he recognized the Ronin as from the Yarikawa Rebellion, so kind of confirms that. And the prisoner that you're talking to, he says that they took Oda and a few other of the prisoners to a final camp that's at a lake nearby. So yeah, then you just travel there, you ride over on your horse and you arrive at this final camp and you find both the Mongols and Straw Hats who are at this camp. And apparently they're coordinating on this. They're probably recruiting or abducting these people to turn them into soldiers or something. So then you clear them and you then you find Oda and he's actually there. So yeah, it's a pretty quick fight. There's not too much to do here. I encourage everyone to use explosives because it's very fun, but you can also stealth this and get through a lot of them before they see you. So yeah, once you talk with Oda, he immediately says, "Oh my god, like they attacked Lucky Genzo's inn and my wife was there." And then you give him the bad news of his wife's passing, and Oda starts crying. And then Oda says that he will go see her, and that's pretty much the end of the quest. There's a couple of the freed prisoners who are walking around this lakeside camp. And yeah, that's the end of the quest. So that's the only quest you can do in Atsuna Prefecture. Yeah, pretty short quest. I have to say, a lot of the Act 2 quests are pretty short. I don't think this is going to be a terribly long episode. But yeah, I mean, I'd say this was a pretty standard type of quest that you get in this game where, you're going to rescue someone and you're just encountering a couple different types of enemies. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's not too much to say about this one. I feel like it kind of fits the theme of a very sad quest. And again, though, it's really just showing you like just the really brutal nature of this conflict and the Mongol invasion and how many people just lose, their homes, their families, just lose something in war, which is terrible. So, yeah, starting off this episode really happy, y'all. Yeah, so next we'll move on to all the quests in the Umugi Prefecture. And we'll start with what I would call, I guess one of the preeminent side quests for the Umugi Prefecture, which is the generosity of Lady Sanjo. And so obviously, y'all remember Lady Sanjo, who she kind of runs Umugi Cove, the pirate's den. And so, yeah, I was excited for this quest because when you talk to her in the main storyline, when you meet her, she says at the end of your brief encounter with her, come back, we may have work together, things that overlap. So I was curious to get to this quest and see what that meant. So yeah, you have to have two prerequisite quests completed in order to get this quest from her, and that's different from most of the side quests in Act 2. Most of them you only have to complete a new horizon, which unlocks all of Act 2. In this case, you have to complete a new horizon, and you have to complete the delicate art of negotiation. So that's the one you first meet her, obviously. Yeah, so you arrive at Umugi Cove, and you go to the main dojo that Lady Sanjo has, and you arrive, and she's inviting you for tea. And, it's kind of a funny scene. Jin is very suspicious, and he says, "You want to have tea with me?" And then she says, "Well, I'll admit I'm only doing this out of politeness." And so she then proceeds to basically give you the quest. And she says that she's heard of, Jin's capabilities from Kenji, and that she needs his help because a map was stolen from her. And this map contains the location of food stores, and it was stolen by a thief hiding in a gambler's den by the Three Paths Well. So she asks Jin to retrieve the map because she says that, that food is how I feed Toyotama's people. And yeah, at this point, Jin kind of sets aside his suspicions and figures, okay, she says she's using the food to feed people, so I can get behind that. Yeah, so then, you set out for the Three Paths Well. I have to say, this was actually far as hell away, y'all. It's actually a long ride away. You definitely want to fast travel it to a location nearby. At this point, I'm pretty sure it's not even in the Umugi Prefecture anymore. Three Paths Well, I think it's in the Kushi Prefecture, but yeah, so eventually, you get to this faraway area and you get near the Three Paths Well, and then it becomes one of those quests where it gives you a large circle, a yellow circle that you can search inside of, and you have to find this gambling den. So it's kind of interesting. It's it's kind of like a small maze of cliffs or stone where it's like you have to keep going further and further inside like a cliff face until eventually it's not even a cliff face, it's not a good description, but it's just like tons of super tall big rocks that obscure this whole house. So then eventually, you find your way in and you find this gambling den. And it's one of these houses that you find in this game where it's elevated on wooden posts because it's a super swampy area. I should probably do a historical episode about the building construction of these types of houses that they have. They're typically on rivers and swampy areas or on coasts, and there was one here. But yeah, so the ladder. So typically, there's a ladder that you climb up to get inside these houses because they're so highly elevated on wooden posts. But in this case, the ladder is pulled up, so you can't get in. So you arrive, and the thief of the map is inside, and he's like shouting at you, and he's saying like, go away. So yeah, it was kind of funny because the thief is inside, and as Jin says, like, I'm Jin Sakai, and the guy says, oh yeah, well, I'm Amaterasu, god of the sun, I don't care, go away. I thought that was funny. So then you can get inside by climbing this big rock, and then you can use your grappling hook to swing from a tree branch and get on top of the gambling den there, and then you can climb in through a window at the top. So then, you get inside, and it's just this one guy, and he's just in there, and he's not like a samurai or even a ronin or anything. He's just like a civilian. So then you talk to him, and he says that he doesn't have the map because Straw Hats put him up to this to lure Jin inside so that they could trade the map for money from Lady Sanjo. And then right then I was like, oh, great, a trap. Yeah, this is wonderful. And then, of course, right then you hear them outside, and you hear, a Straw Hat saying, come outside, Lord Sakai, I have a deal for you. And I was like, oh, I hate when this happens in video games, when you get led into a trap like this. So then you talk with the Straw Hat outside. And at first it's just one, but then a couple more, like, hop down and from the rocks, and you're a tiny bit surrounded. But so Jin, basically, honestly, this is kind of a super short and unremarkable conversation. Like, Jin just says that he won't negotiate, and then the fight just starts. Like, the guy just says, come on, pay us, you're outnumbered, and Jin just says, no way. Yeah, so I mean, this was a pretty unremarkable fight. Like, it's really just a couple Straw Hats. They're not super hard to defeat. And once you defeat them, you just recover the map. That's pretty much it. One thing I thought was cool about this map is that the map is actually is Lady Sanjo's fan. The map is disguised like inside of her fan, so that's what you recover. And I thought that was just like a cool detail to add, that it shows Lady Sanjo is clever, which is just a cool detail to add there. Yeah, so then at this point, I mean, you just leave the guy who helped the Ronin, who he says he was forced into, you just leave him in this gambler's den, and that's pretty much it. And then you return back and give the map back to Lady Sanjo, and that's that. And she's like sitting, it's different. She's sitting out back, looking at the back of the dojo, which normally she's not. And then Jin like basically says like, well, this map is to feed the people of Toyotama, and that's what you're going to do, right? And she says like, she absolutely will. And it was interesting, they clearly had like an uneasy alliance here, but they never had understanding. And it was one of those kind of like cliches where as Jin is walking away, she says, Lord Sakai, and he pauses and turns around, and then she says, thank you. And she says like super slow and meaningful. And I just thought that was interesting because, it's just like showing that Lady Sanjo and Jin are two people who come from two different walks of life, but she's showing that she clearly does, value her place, and she values taking care of like her role as caretaker of the Toyotama region, and that she's trying to do that. So that's the end of the quest. I mean, again, it's not super long, but I actually thought it was a decent quest. And to be honest, and this is something that y'all are going to hear in this episode repeatedly, I'm just going to give you a warning, but I'd say one of my biggest complaints about this quest and also this game is just that I think this game is so good, I often just want more of it. And this is a perfect example of that. Like, I really wanted more out of this quest from Lady Sanjo. Like, I wanted to see more sides of her. Maybe you could take her on the quest with you, and then you're talking to her about her upbringing or her background. Or I really thought she was going to get like a series of quests where it's like, just a longer, more drawn out story that is just having you do more, encounter more people, see more of Umugi Prefecture, something like that. And yeah, I mean, all in all, it's a pretty quick quest, and yeah, you don't get that much more characterization on Lady Sanjo or anything. So yeah, I mean, what can I say? I love this game so much. I just want everything to be flushed out more constantly. But yeah, I thought it was a fine quest all in all. So yeah, we'll move on to the next quest in Umugi Prefecture, which is called the River Children. So yeah, it takes place in Umugi Prefecture, obviously, and you arrive at a fishing hut. And so you've been hearing stories of like water demons that have been taking people in this area. So you arrive at the fishing hut and you go inside and you speak with a very distraught woman named Shino. And she says that she saw a river child called a Kappa, a monster in the river. And she says, like, it's a monster in the river, and she saw claw marks in the soil outside. And she says that her father went outside to check on it, and then she heard splashing and screaming, and then he was gone. So this is how the quest starts. Yeah, so you start this quest by investigating outside, and then you find some half-eaten fish, you find a knocked-over rice barrel, you find some tracks leading into the river, you follow the tracks across, like, a shallow part of the river. And then you follow them for a while along the coast of the river. And yeah, eventually you find Shino's father, and he's dead. And you examine his remains, and you find that he's been killed by a blade. So probably not a demon at this point. And actually, I just want to pause there for a quick second. I did want to say, this was another moment where I was just like, I was a little disappointed because the atmosphere was really cool. It was really foggy. And, I just had this vision of like freaky water creatures, something out of like, Japanese myth or something, like coming to life, and just how cool that would be. And that's how it felt. Like, it felt kind of like a freaky atmosphere to start the quest. And so, but as soon as I found her father, I was like, oh, it's probably like, bandits or something else, not like real demons or Kappa or anything. But it is what it is. I get it. They're grounding the game in reality. It's not a fantasy game, but it'd be cool if something that was there. So yeah, then you just continue following the tracks, and you head away from the river, and you follow the tracks into a field. And as you keep going, eventually Jin smells fish. And so as you keep following the tracks, you eventually end up at a place called Old Kanazawa Marsh. And there is a bandit camp set up there. So sure enough, that's what it is. It's bandits. And yeah, the bandits are complaining. And this is always what happens. Like, when you arrive at a location like this, one of these side quests, the bandits or the Mongols or whoever, they're like talking about, the quest that you're doing. And in this case, they're complaining that all they got from what they just did was an old flute and some fish, and they're like not happy with, what they got from, murdering this woman's father. So that's pretty awful. Yeah, so right away I was like, all right, time to die, mofos. Yeah, and so there's only 5 bandits at this camp, and you can sneak on top of like a wooden lean-to that they have, and if you just throw a black powder bomb like at this campfire, you can just like kill 3 of the bandits like right away pretty easily. So yeah, it's pretty easy to defeat them. It's not super hard. After you defeat them, there's like some supplies in the camp, and you loot one of the bandits to find the flute from Shino's father. That's pretty much all there is at this camp, really. And yeah, then you return to Shino, you give her the bad news that her father's passed away, and you tell her that it was thieves, and, it wasn't actual Kappa. And then she almost doesn't believe it, because she says only a demon could do such horrible things to people. And then Jin says that desperation will bring out the demons in the best of people. So that's how they're linking it back to, the folk tale sort of grounding in this. And yeah, so you give the flute back to Shino, and then she says that she'll go to Akashima village and that she'll carry a part of her father with her in having the flute. And that is the end of the quest. And yeah, I have one thing to say about this real quick. You can actually find Shino at Akashima Village later. I don't know how long you have to wait or what you have to do or like exactly when you have to go back there. And I don't remember it, but I just went back to Akashima Village at some point and I just found her there and you can talk to her. Again, this was kind of the moment where it's like, I don't know, like in Mass Effect or some of the other RPG games, like it feels really rewarding to come across a character that you saved in a previous game or mission or something. And I feel like they kind of give you a lot in the dialogue sometimes that way. In this case, like you don't really get much from Shino. Like you just encounter her and Jin says like, oh, I'm glad you made it. And, you know, she says like, thanks for helping. And I'll always remember my father. I'm happy to be here. And that's like pretty much it. But yeah, just a nice little Easter egg to have that there. And yeah, I just have to say again, like, I thought this quest was cool and I did like it because they are incorporating like, you know, folk tales and sorts of mythic folklore and such, you know, into like the beliefs of the population. And they're showing you how people might believe in their various superstitions if they don't know how to explain something. So I liked that. And again, it reminded me of that quest in the Kashina Woods in Act 1, where they said like there were spirits of people just thought spirits were killing samurai and Mongols, that no one was going near the Kashina Woods, and you go in and yeah, it's bandits again in that quest. But yeah, these were two quests where I was kind of excited to see if they're going to introduce some sort of horror element or something into the game. A little disappointed that didn't happen. I get it. I still think the quests were pretty good, you know, no complaints there. I just love this game and I always just want more of it. So yeah. So at this point, we will move on to the next quest in Umugi Prefecture. It is called A Thief of Innocence. So you arrive at Umugi Cove for this one, and you speak with a woman looking for her daughter named Kuma. So she says that Kuma hasn't been seen in days, and that she was last seen at Lady Sanjo's dojo. Quick side note: this is another great opportunity where it's like, maybe you could bring in Lady Sanjo somehow. You know, you could just talk to her or loop her in somehow. But yeah, it doesn't happen. So you walk over to the dojo, and you have to talk to a couple Straw Hats trying to figure out like where Kuma is. So you walk over to this first Straw Hat. And there's a guy sitting near a fire, and this guy sounded like such bad vibes. I just got to say, they did a great job of making him sound super creepy. I wanted to kill this guy right away. I'll just say that. So you talk to him, and all he says is that he has girls, boys, and chickens, you know, and he says something like, you know, they are whatever you think they are for the right price. And then Jin just is like, no. And again, in this moment, I was like, so are you like a human trafficker then? Because, I mean, I have no problem just executing you right now, if that is the case. But the whole conversation is just a dead end right there, and that's it. So then you go talk to another Straw Hat inside the dojo, and he says, I know Kuma, but I haven't seen her in days. And then that's another dead end. So then you go talk to a third Straw Hat in the dojo, and he says that he doesn't know. He says, I don't know anybody's name, and leave me alone. And it's like, all right, that's not suspicious at all. But yeah, so then you do. But then once you finish talking to this third guy, another Straw Hat kind of flags you down in the back of the main dojo. And he says that he knows who Kuma is, but they can't talk there, so you should follow him. So then you follow him to the back of the Umugi Cove area, and you go outside the dojo at this point, and he says that Kuma is a friend of his, who he last saw leaving with a man who promised her a job running an inn so that she could earn money for her mom. And he says that it's called Numanaka Inn, and it's up the main road. So yeah, so then the main quest really starts here. So at this point, you have to go to the Numanaka Inn. This is another quest where Numanaka Inn is far away, y'all. Like, this was really far away. And yeah, so you have to travel a bit. I encourage everyone to fast travel there if you can. So once you get there, it's very eerie, foggy weather. And you arrive at this inn, and it's in the middle of this big, large swamp area. There's nothing else in the area, basically. So yeah, I thought this was a good time to do a standoff with the Ronin who are guarding the Numanaka Inn. Again, if you're wearing the Sakai family armor, then you can clear a bunch of them in the standoff. So eventually, you clear all the Ronin, whether you sneak it or stand off and, take them out head to head. And then you find Kuma upstairs of the Numenaka Inn, and she's crying, and she's clearly being held prisoner. And she says that these Ronin made her help them rob people by having her stand on the side of the road and call for help so that they could ambush people. And she clearly feels very badly about this.
Icy Hot Pro with 2 max strength pain relievers. Targets multiple pain receptors. Ice works fast, heat makes it last.
Adobe Acrobat Studio, so brand new. Show me all the things PDFs can do. Do your work with ease and speed. PDF Spaces is all you need. Do hours of research in an instant with key insights from an AI assistant. Pick a template with a click. Now your prezzo looks super slick. Close that deal? Yeah, you won. Do that, doing that, did that, done. Now you can do that with Acrobat. Now you can do that with the all-new Acrobat. It's time to do your best work with the all-new Adobe Acrobat Studio.
So yeah, that's not great. So then you get the final part of the quest, which is to lead Kuma to safety outside of the inn. And you find a straw hat waiting there. And the straw hat is with her mother, who you got the quest from. And the guy waiting there, it's that creepy straw hat guy who said that thing about the chickens and the girls and the boys. Very weird. And right away I was like, oh yeah, I am gonna defeat the heck out of this guy. Let me say that much. So then you start an actual duel with him. And his name is Sanetoki, so I thought that was interesting. You get an actual duel and you get his name. And that's the one thing I like about the duels, is that from a lore perspective, if you get a duel, they have to have a name to go along with the duel, so then it gives you a name on whoever that character is. So I like that. So yeah, then you duel Sanetoki on this muddy, foggy road outside of Numenaka Inn, and there's no music, so it's a very quiet, kind of eerie duel. Yeah, not super hard. I don't really have too much to say about it. Use your Heavenly Strike, use your Dance of Wrath, the other mythic tail move you can get, and you can beat this guy pretty easy. And after you defeat him, you then talk with Kuma's mother, and she says that she followed Jin to the inn because, the desire to save a child is stronger than anything else, and Kuma's apologizing and saying sorry, just saying she wanted to help her make money, and that's why she wanted to run the inn and everything. And yeah, that's the end of the quest, basically. So, not too much more there. All in all, yeah, I thought this was a good quest. I'll save that for a second. But what I liked about this quest is, again, it's really talking about economic empowerment. If you think about it, it's like people are they're all trying to find a way to just get ahead in life. And you can't blame anyone for that, right? Like, we all want to just get ahead. And like, when means of making money are so limited, like, people like Kuma will just try and find whatever, income mechanisms that they can to generate revenue so that they can help their family. And yeah, this is one of the things that's not said, but Kuma's father is clearly not around, and you don't know if he ran away or passed away when she was young, or when they were growing up. But again, it's like they're kind of saying a lot in this quest without beating you over the head with it, which is that like Kuma's mother is struggling, and Kuma wanted to help her by making money. And yeah, it's got to be really hard. Raising a child in, really any time period as a single parent. And so, yeah, one of the reasons I want to do this podcast is just to break down some of the things you can notice in these quests, because it can be easy to do some of these quests and just kind of like, run through them and just feel like, oh, that was a fine quest, and not think too much about it. But I really feel like the game devs were pretty intentional in what they're trying to show about society and the time period and some of these individual characters in these quests. And I just wanted to, give it its due in talking about that. So, and here's the other thing I wanted to mention. Yeah, I'm just finding on a personal level that, like, and I've said this before in this podcast so far, but like, Act 2 can just be so swampy that it's just not as like constantly beautiful as Act 1. That doesn't mean I don't like it any less, but the atmosphere is just different, and it can put a dampener on some things. I kind of felt that in this quest. It was just like very swampy and eerie and foggy for a lot of it, and that's how a lot of the Omugi prefecture is. So, just part of the landscape that you're learning and affects how you might feel while playing it. All right, so now we are going to move on to what is the final tale of Tsushima in Act 2 in Umugi Cove. So it's called A Wealthy Man Has All He Needs. So you arrive and you find this guy, Saburo, and he's shouting. And so he's at the Umugi Cove survivor camp. So it's right outside of the Umugi Cove Pirates Den. So he's shouting at this camp from the top of a rock, and he's like threatening them. So you show up and you're like, all right, what the heck is happening here? So when you climb up the rock to talk to him, he very nicely, formally introduces himself. And he says, my name is Saburo, and I'm a highly respected merchant in Umugi. And right away, I was like, anybody saying they're a highly respected merchant in Umugi is probably shady. But he actually ends up not being that. But that was just kind of funny. So then he says that his family has gone missing and that the people in the survivor camp know something about it. And he proceeds to say that he made arrangements for his family to leave the island by meeting them, at the survivor camp, and then they would sail for Iki. So Jin says that isn't possible because the Mongols control the sea. And Saburo says that he paid a crew of smugglers who are unsavory, but he says they've helped several families. So yeah, then Saburo says that his wife, Aki, was scared and his son Jotaro wouldn't stop crying, so he had to do something to get them out of there. And now they're all missing. So he asked Jin to try and track them down and get information from the people in the survivor camp who might know. And this is where the quest officially starts. So yeah, then Jin stands on top of the rock and he shouts at all of them to gather underneath the rock and that he wants information. So this is interesting. You hadn't really gotten something like this where Jin is shouting at people from on top of a rock. But yeah, then finally someone speaks up who says that he saw a woman and a child clutching a toy, but he didn't see them leave. So at this point, you can hop down from the rock and you can have individual conversations with people. So you talk to one or two people who basically say they know nothing, but they direct you to someone in the camp named Chota, who they say does know something. And so then you go to talk to Chota, and he starts running away, starts sprinting away. So then you have to hit him with an arrow to stop him from running. And once you do that, you go talk to him. And so obviously I'm like, dude, Chota, if you start sprinting away before I can even talk to you, that's pretty sus, dude. I want to know what's up. So then he tells you that the smugglers were at the camp and that he saw them take Saburo's family away and that he followed the smugglers, but that they caught him and that they made him swear to not tell or they would kill him, that, he saw them leaving. So yeah, he says that he saw the smugglers take Saburo's family west to a watchtower on the coast of Umugi. All right, so then you head there, and yeah, you find a Ronin camp first, and you clear them, and then you go a little further beyond that, and you find the watchtower. So it's, again, very swampy, very foggy, not super beautiful, uplifting atmosphere through a lot of this quest. And so then this is another one of those cliches where you then listen to the Ronin and you hear, you eavesdrop on them, and they're saying, oh, people are desperate right now and they'll fall for any false promises if you dangle some hope in front of their face. Then it's like, oh, okay. So again, we got some real evil dudes here, and they're confirming what we think, might have happened and is happening to people in this area. So yeah, at this point, you then, and here's the other thing. There's 3 civilians who are standing with the straw hats, and then right then the straw hats say, oh, your ride's canceled, sorry, and they're about to kill the civilians, and the civilians like, what, you said to get us off the island? It's like, yeah, dude, there is no boat, you're not getting off the island. Look around, it's very clear what's happening here. So then you have to jump in and clear the road in to make sure they don't kill the civilians. And again, another great time for explosives. You can just get a bunch of them right away. And the refugee NPCs are immune to explosive damage, so that is good to remember, y'all. So yeah, then after you clear the Ronin at this watchtower, you free the refugees, and they're very scared. And Jin then explains to them and says, they were going to rob you and kill you, so you should go. And they're like, okay, yeah, and they run away. So then at this point, though, you have to find Saburo's family. So then I have to say this actually took me a little while. It gives you another one of those big yellow circles where you just have to like look around inside of it. And yeah, you kind of have to travel north up the western coast a bit. And then eventually you do find Saburo's wife and his child, Jotaro, dead on the coast on a rock. Super, super sad scene. You find Jotaro's toy there. I noticed that Jotaro's body, the sun, was covered by a goza mat. And yeah, I just kind of noticed that I'm pretty positive there hasn't been one real depiction of a dead child in this game, which I think is a fine thing for the game developers to do. And in a way, they're really confronting a super horrific and difficult subject by even just choosing to include mention of it in the game at all, which is that, like, yeah, I mean, horrible things were done to all people, and that included children, and that's just like even more awful. And again, I mean, you see that in these quests, you know, they really choose to include subject matter that is serious and just tells you a lot about just how awful this invasion of Tsushima must have been, and just war, you know, has always been, and you know, was before the modern day, where war is still terrible in the modern day, but at least there are, technically speaking, international rules of war. Obviously, that did not exist for the vast majority of, you know, human species existence thus far. So really sad scene. You recover Jotaro's toy, and the final part of the quest is to bring it back to Saburo at the Yomugi Cove survivor camp. You return back and you give him the bad news. Yeah, it sucks. I feel like I keep saying that, you know, like you just return back from these quests and give people bad news, basically. Really sucks. And you then you give him back the toy, and Saburo recognizes it, and he's totally stunned and devastated, and he like just can't believe it. And Jin explains to him what happened, that, you know, the Ronin were liars and they were just murdering people and robbing them. And then Saburo just starts like shouting at the survivor camp and at Jin. He's saying like, what kind of samurai are you? He's shouting at the camp saying it's all of your faults. Like, you know, you guys gave up my family. Like, he's clearly not acting totally rationally here. And he's saying that everyone betrayed him. And eventually Jin kind of talks him down and says that, you know, you should take whatever money you have left and help people fight back against the Mongols, and that that's the best way to, you know, fight back, and that he should recover his family, their bodies, and bury them. And yeah, Saburo doesn't even, he never even gets a line back. That's just the end of the quest right there. Yeah, I have to say, I actually thought this outburst from Saburo was really well done and really emotional. And, you know, it was tearful. And yeah, I mean, it's a difficult subject, right? It's like, how do you put into a video game someone's family being wiped out and murdered that is not like so gruesome and horrible that we as players want to just like quit the game because it feels so bad, but you also do impart like the seriousness of it, and just try to put yourself in the shoes of what it must have been like during this time period, and to experience this historical event. And yeah, just really awful stuff. So that's the end of the quest right there. And yeah, I thought this was a really good quest in that it's creative. It's showing you just like all the ways that, you know, deceitfully resourceful people in a time of destabilization of any type of central government, all the different ways that they can take advantage of people, where it's like, oh, come with us, we have a boat, you can escape, or, you know, oh, like, you know, there's just then the people are desperate, and then as they literally are bragging, right, like they're saying it creates an opportunity to deceive people and for them to gain riches, which is just sad and terrible, and you could argue is kind of the story of humanity in a lot of ways. And there's some ways you could say that even exists now in the modern day, actually, which is fascinating to think about. War profiteering is really what that's called. But yeah, so that's the end of that quest, and that wraps up all the Umugi Cove quests, or the Umugi Prefecture quest in Act 2. So at this point, we'll move on to the remaining quests. There's only quests left in Kushi Prefecture at this point. So the next quest in Kushi Prefecture is called Flesh and Stone, and yeah, I actually was really interested in this quest, so I'm excited to talk about it. Yeah, so it takes place in the old Toyotama Hills in Kushi Prefecture. So you approach this destroyed statue in the old Toyotama Hills, and you find a person standing there, and the statue's been desecrated. So you approach this person to talk to them, and they say, and he says, "Oh, this is Master Izo's sculpture in Kushi Prefecture, and I'm his son." So you eventually find out later that the son is named Mamuro. You don't find that out for a bit, but I'm just going to call him that now. So yeah, his name is Mamuro. And what's interesting is in the main storyline, you'd actually heard Master Izo be talked about in the Act 2 story. So I was really excited for this quest because I wanted to know more about who he was and just like see what his quest was going to be. So, and I wasn't sure if he was like a historical figure from 100 years ago, if he was currently alive or what. So apparently when Jin starts talking to Mamuro, Jin says that he's sorry that Master Izo is gone. And he's basically saying that everyone believes that Master Izo is dead as a result of the Mongol invasion. So that's good to know, that Master Izo was a contemporary figure in this universe. And he says, to Mamuro, or Mamuro tells Jin that he could restore the sculpture if he has Master Izo's tools delivered to him. But the Mongols have taken their house, unfortunately. So Jin says, all right, I'll get your tools back and we'll honor Master Izo's memory by restoring this statue. So yeah, I was excited for this quest. I thought this was like, it's like archaeological and historical and it's spiritual. It's honoring this person's contribution and the statue. I think it was a big Buddha statue or something like that. But, it's like a spiritual contribution to the area. So eventually you just run up run up some stairs to Master Izo's house at the top of the hills right here. It's not super far. So once you get there, you find a bunch of Mongols at the house. So yeah, I thought this was a great time for a standoff, y'all. I mean, these Mongols, no way. No way. I mean, we're here for tools. We're here to save this statue and repair it. Ain't no way we're just gonna sneak in right here. So I did a standoff. So then you eventually clear all the Mongols there. And here's the crazy thing. So there's like a main house, and then there's like a crafting workshop where Master Izo does the sculpture making. You find Izo alive in the sculpture making workshop. So, and it looks like he's making a sculpture of one of the Mongols. And you can't tell if it's like Khotun Khan or Kublai Khan or someone else, but so then it's kind of weird. So when you talk to him, Jin is glad to see him alive, and he says that, I'll take you to your son. And then Izo says no. And he says, and Izo's being weird about his son this whole time. I'll get to that in a second. But he says that he's alive because the Mongols admire his work. And Jin counters by saying, yeah, but they're destroying all your works and ruining your legacy across Tsushima. And then he says, Master Izo says that Khotun Khan wants him to create a masterpiece for Kublai Khan himself. And Jin gets kind of angry at this point and says to gather his tools because they're leaving. So right then that he does, Master Izo does, and you start heading out back down to the statue. And Jin says to him, like Izo asks which statue they desecrated, and Jin says it's the Bosatsu down the road, and that's the one that's damaged. And Izo says that he created that statue to honor his son's birth, and that it isn't one of his best. But Jin says that his son disagrees, and then Izo says that his son has never had an eye for art. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And that's the thing, like, he's had this weird, like, Master Izo has had this weird sort of looking down on his son. Like, he's not saying, oh, my son sucks, but he's just kind of like, he's been saying, oh, I feel really sorry for my son. Like, it's just been like a very weird vibe towards his son in this quest in these couple lines here. So then at this point you actually get a dialogue choice, and the two choices are, this statue is historic or art isn't everything. And I chose this statue is historic, and if you choose that, Jin says that this statue is one of the greatest statues in Kushi. And I thought this was super fascinating. So at this point, Izo then gets a little incensed, and he says, Kushi, do you know how vast the Mongol Empire is? And then like Jin kind of realizes, and he says, so it sounds like all you're seeking is fame and glory for your work. And then Master Izo says, well, aren't you seeking that? And Jin says, no, it's not about that. And Master Izo says to Jin, yeah, but you gain that by the ghost name. Everyone, you're gaining fame and renown from being the ghost. And Jin says, like, well, I'm trying to save my people. And then Master Izo says something I think is really fascinating we have to talk about. And he says that Jin is lucky. He says that Jin's lucky because he's never had to choose between duty to others and duty to himself. And it took me a couple times of reading that to actually like understand what Master Izo was saying there, but here's what he's saying. When he's saying duty to himself, it's like your responsibility to succeed. Where it's like, and let's just take a step back from, this game in this moment, y'all, right? Like I want all of you listening to succeed. And it's like there comes a point in life where it's like you got to do what's best for you because, everybody needs to find their way to have financial and economic and social security. And that doesn't mean do bad things, but, it means that like you can't fault people for trying to get ahead and like provide for their family and do all these things because that is your duty. You have a duty to yourself to, take care of yourself. You have a duty to your family to take care of your family. And so what Master Izo is basically saying here, and we've come across this before, but he's talking about a class divide. He's saying to Jin, like, you've never had to worry about providing for yourself or providing for your family or, like creating glory or renown for yourself because you were born into nobility. So you just started with all of that. And I found this super fascinating. And what's interesting is Jin doesn't say anything back. And then you just kind of run on down to the statue. And this does happen a lot where like when Jin is confronted with some of the class divides, he doesn't say anything back. And I have to say, like, in fairness to Jin, like I would say Jin is like about as good of a person who comes from nobility as you could reasonably expect in one of these time periods. So I'm not saying that Jin is like doing anything wrong, but it's so fascinating because what Master Izo is saying here is that like this is his chance to have his works known across the globe. And again, like I just in case y'all don't like know this about the Mongol Empire, but like the Mongol Empire ended up stretching from literally like the coast of Asia all the way to Eastern Europe. It was one of the largest empires that has ever existed in the history of the world. It actually might be the largest. I need to check on that. But so yeah, what Master Izo is saying is true, where it's like if he creates some huge masterpiece of Kublai Khan or something, and that the Mongols then send back to Mongolia or over to their capital, and they like tout Master Izo's name, and he becomes famous. That is like his one shot at fame and financial security that he might ever get, that he could have for his family, and he wants to like take advantage of that. And so I thought this was super fascinating. And once again, this is just a moment where I want to give huge props to the game developers just for adding in so many intellectually and emotionally stimulating concepts and conversations, about this game and about just things that people would encounter in this time period. So yeah, and one last thing I wanted to mention is it seems like, Mamuro has no mother. It seems like whoever Master Izo's partner was, or whoever gave birth to Mamuro, is not around anymore. And we encountered this before with Kuma, right? In Imugi, where there's a lot of people who they only have one parent. And that just adds to the difficulty, right? Where you've got things like disease and just increase. There's no grocery stores, right? So it's like food is more scarce in this time period. Like everything is more scarce. You don't have medical technology, like, so the odds of both parents surviving to adulthood for kids is significantly lower than it is for obviously all of us in the modern day. So it's really interesting that they just choose to include all of this, in this quest line. So yeah, then you run back down to the broken statue, and the weather kind of like switches over to stormy nighttime as you're on your way there. And there's a squad of Mongols there. Again, this is a great moment for a standoff, because I was like, hell no, y'all, you're not desecrating this statue, and like I'm not sneaking this one. We're doing a standoff, and then I'm chucking explosives or something, and we're going in with a bang here. So eventually you clear the Mongols, and then Master Izo arrives. He was kind of hanging back as you were fighting, and you find Mamuro dead. Really, really sad. And Master Izo starts crying over his body and says that he'd give it all to have it back. And Jin says that he should live up to who his son thought he was. And that's pretty much the end of the quest. And I have to say, like, man, just for Mamuro to be killed by the Mongols right there, that really struck me. I felt really, really sad with that. And yeah, I mean, I guess Master Izo, like, it is very emotional seeing him cry over Mamoru's body and saying that, like, what I just didn't understand is, like, I don't know, did he just let his son think he was dead and he was really just being protected by the Mongols the whole time? Like, and this is just another one of those things, kind of like with Lady Sanjo, where I wish this quest had been flushed out more. I wish we'd gotten more about Master Izo. I kind of wish this had been like a 2 or 3 part quest where you're getting a lot more background on Master Izo, and that's kind of what I thought we would get.
$1 million, free to play. You just need to survive. It's the Fanatics NFL Survivor Pool. Pick one team to win each week. Get it right, move on. Get it wrong, you're out. The last fan standing take home a guaranteed $1 million cash prize. And for every player who joins, we add $1 to the pot, up to $10 million. The Fanatics NFL Survivor Pool. Play free on the Fanatics app. App access open to all. Must be 21 plus and joined by 9/8 to play. No purchase necessary, U.S. only, void where prohibited. Subject to complete terms. See fanatics.com/game rules.
It's back to school season, and Clorox is donating 2 million disinfecting wipes to classrooms across America. Because back to school means things can get a little bit messy. Just ask kindergarten teacher Miss Gibson.
Give me just one Clorox wipe and I'm ready for glitter glue, exploded lunchbox yogurt, peanut butter handprints, runny noses, picking noses, rubbing noses.
Touching noses.
Thank you, Edward. Ooh, nap mats and lockers and tissue boxes. And
Clorox
scissors.
disinfecting wipes. Teacher's #1 wipe. Clean feels good. Based on unit sales data.
But both the Lady Sanjo and Master Izo quests end up being fairly short, and you don't get much more than everything we just covered just now. So yeah, I mean, all in all, I did really like this quest, and I was glad it was there. I think it added a lot. I just think it could have added even more than it did. And once again, like, I think this is a fantastic game. My biggest complaint is that there's not more of it at certain points. So yeah, next we'll move on to the next quest in Kushi Prefecture. I'm just going to give you all a heads up. The next 2 quests are really short, like literally just a couple minutes each. So we're going to start flying through them here. The next quest is called Peace for the Divine, and it takes place in Kushi Prefecture. So you arrive at an Inari shrine, and there's smoke like rising from it. And this is like right near actually where you just were for the statue quest, the old Toyotama Hills. So the shrine is totally destroyed and like splayed out all over the place. And it's like, the stones have been, systematically picked apart and destroyed. And so yeah, the shrine is like destroyed and splayed out. And then there's a slaughtered fox along with it at the shrine. And right away I was like, oh man, whoever killed this fox, I am gonna find y'all. Let me say that. So then you set out to find out who destroyed this shrine, and a fox shows up to start leading you. And so I thought this was super cool. I thought this was just like, again, kind of like spiritual and sort of superstitious, like tapping into some of the folklore that exists and, incorporating it directly into a quest. I love that. So yeah, then you follow the fox and you start like heading through kind of some like there's some of the sorts of bamboo clustered forest you can see in Act 2. And yeah, like literally 5 seconds away from where you find the shrine, you find like some Mongols patrolling. They have a dog. You can sneak and clear them. That's what I did. So then you like keep following the fox for kind of a sort of long ways, and you're just like clearing Mongols on patrol as you're doing this. And then you see like a couple of foxes as you go, and they're like standing and watching along the way. So I loved that, like, you know, theme that was there. So eventually you arrive at like a final camp spot of the Mongols. And there are like a bunch of foxes there. So yeah, the final part of this quest is just clear the camp of the Mongols. So, you know, you do that. It doesn't take super long. And yeah, this is messed up, y'all. There's like a bunch of dead foxes like around this final camp spot. And just right away, I was like, oh man, no sneaking here. No sneaking here. I'm gonna put y'all to the sword or the bomb. gonna throw the black powder bombs at y'all in my revenge. Or shoot the explosive arrows. Yeah, so Jin, then you clear the quest, you clear the camp, and you finish the quest by talking to 4 foxes that run up to you afterwards, and Jin says that you're safe now, and that's the end of the quest. And yeah, I mean, I thought this was fascinating because it's showing the ways that the Mongols are trying to, you know, like literally take apart Japanese culture, right? And they're trying to like spiritually demoralize people. And we've seen this before, but it was just fascinating to see it again here. And that it is an Inari shrine quest, basically, which is just really cool. I mean, it's very easy to just like have collectibles, like little things you can find in a game, but then to like, you know, have a quest that actually is about the Inari shrines and the destruction of one, and it shows you the dead foxes. It's just like really cool, you know, addition to the story that they add in. And that's the thing, like, I felt like I had bonded with the Inari shrines and with the foxes that you find at them through this up to this point, because I'd done it so much. Like, I'd seen the foxes, and I'd seen a bunch of the foxes. You pet them, and, you know, the shrines are all really beautiful, that when I came across this, I was mad. So huge credit to the developers there. So yeah, the next quest is called The Burden of Theft. This is another super short one. So it takes place in Kushi Prefecture near the eastern coast of the prefecture on the island. And it starts by finding a dead monk's body. And, you know, it's in monk robes. And so you investigate, there's some torn flower petals and dirt. And, you know, the monk has shallow cuts. So Jin deduces that this monk was tortured and that he gave up his life hiding something, and that was probably buried nearby. And so Jin says you should try to find it. So that's what you're doing. You're searching for this artifact. So then you search this nearby area. It's pretty quick, and you just find a blood trail in this like nearby cemetery. And it's leading to a spot at the back of the cemetery where you then find the same flowers that you found on the body. And this is the relic location. So then you retrieve the relic, and it's called a Tsushima relic. And it says that it's just like a small precious statue belonging to Kushi Temple. So at this point, that's it. You then just have to fast travel to Kushi Temple to return it. So you can do that. You travel there and you give it to a monk who's kneeling at a shrine outside of the main temple. It's on the temple grounds, like outside the walls. And you can talk to this monk. So you give him the statue, and then the monk says, "Oh, I never thought I'd see this again." And he explains that dead monk that you found was not a monk, but it was a civilian who they let stay at the temple, who stole the statue and then stole a monk robe and ran away. And it was a thief. And so then the monk says, you know, we are all subject to our choices, and his ended in suffering. And that's the end of the quest. Yeah, so there was no combat there. And yeah, I mean, I have to say, with this one, I don't have as much commentary because I guess I just don't understand like the point of it as much. Like, it's a quest and it's fine, but yeah, I mean, you know, this guy stole and ran out, and then I guess the Mongols caught him, but he didn't give up the relic that he hid. And I don't know, I mean, that's the thing, we don't even know who killed this guy actually. Like, we don't know if it's bandits or Mongols or exactly what it is, but yeah, so I don't know. That's a quest, and at this point, we only have one last quest, and for all of Act 2, one last Tale of Tsushima here, and This is the last quest in Kushi Prefecture. It's called A Debt Repaid, and it takes place near Kawayata Village. And so you arrive and you find a bunch of dead bandits and a caravan with a lone person alive, like on the road. So then you get a cutscene, and right then Jin accuses the guy on his knees of being a thief, and as if he's the one who attacked the caravan. And so the guy says that his name is Gomyo, and that he was forced to work for the bandits that are dead right there, and that he killed them all. And he says that he killed them because the bandits told him that if he came to work for them, they would pay off a debt he owed, and they would not kill his family. And then he says that after years of working for the bandits, they killed his family anyway and robbed them, and now he won't stop until they're all dead. So this is a vengeance quest, and Jin agrees to help them. Super sad to start, but again, right away I was like, "Oh hell yeah, dude! We're gonna help you out, and we're gonna find these bandits because that's some messed up stuff." Yes, then you start heading out. It's a very windy, stormy weather. So you're headed to this bandit camp, and this guy Gomyo knows where it is. So you run along a path for a while to a nearby hill that overlooks the camp, and you eventually end up at the coast. So you're like looking out at a coastal camp sort of thing. So then you start one of the surveying, sections in the quest that you can do, and you find 2 lookouts at a campfire outside the main camp, and you find a building near the coastal water. So this is what you see. You see 2 lookouts at a campfire. You then spot a building near the coast, and that's where they keep what they steal. Then you find another larger building where they sleep, and then the final thing you can identify is a smaller house that Gomyo says belongs to their leader, Gorohachi. So Jin then says this camp is a lot bigger than he expected, and that the bandits are a threat to the whole prefecture. So at this point, the surveying's over, and the quest starts, which is just to clear this whole thing. So Gomyo just rushes in. He literally just goes like, "That's it, let's go. I'm gonna kill all these guys." So yeah, he just rushes in. You can just hang back and pick off the people he's fighting with a bow and arrow, or you can just like stealth them. You can assassinate them. So yeah, there's like 2 campfires with like 2 guards each, and you just defeat them with Gomyo there. And as you're heading into the main camp, it starts raining. So yeah, then you sneak down this pathway down to the camp, and you can do a standoff or you can sneak it. Eventually you get seen, and a bigger fight breaks out where everyone kind of runs out of the various buildings, and you have to fight them all. There are a lot of them, but again, they're not like Mongols. They're bandits. They're not super well equipped, I feel. So it's a pretty manageable fight. So eventually, yeah, you just keep clearing each building until you arrive at Gorohachi's house, but he's gone, and Gorohachi is not inside. So when you come back outside, Gorohachi is up on a hill looking down at you, and he's shouting down to Gomyo, and he's saying, "I'm glad I killed your family, Gomyo. You're all bastards," like just typical big bad mean boss sorts of things. Yeah, so then right then, like 10 bandits rush down the hill while Gorohachi hangs back on a horse, and this big fight starts. This was a great moment for explosives, y'all. Once again, as they're all rushing you, just chuck your sticky bombs or whatever it is, and you can take out a lot of them. But I thought this was a cool fight because it's you and Gomyo up against these bandits. Again, I just felt really motivated. I was like, these bandits are bad people, and I'm not standing for this. Yeah, so eventually you beat them, and you kill Gorohachi in the fight. It's not super spectacular or anything. You just kind of defeat him like anybody else. And then you get this final cutscene, and it's Gomyo, and he's wounded beyond saving. And Jin says, "I can't save you. Like, I can't heal your wounds, but we avenged your family." And Gomyo thanks Jin for helping him. And he has one final request of Jin. He asks Jin not to leave his body there, just among all the dead bandit bodies. And Jin says yes. It cuts to black. And then it shows you Jin is standing next to a funeral pyre at this beautiful spot on the cove as the waves are rushing in, and you're like above it on a rock. And yeah, the quest ends with Jin burning Gomyo's body at a wooden funeral pyre on the stone outcropping overlooking the ocean. And that is the end of the quest. And yeah, I have to say, I mean, obviously it's a somber ending, and even though Gomyo died, it did feel at least like a little bit hopeful and empowering because, you know, you cleared the bandits and removed that threat to the whole prefecture from the area. But yeah, I mean, all in all, like, I actually thought this was a really good quest. I really, really liked this quest. It's not terribly long, but, you know, they're just giving you more about the world, and it is hard to feel good about a lot of these quests, I would say, because it's like such heavy subject matter. But, you know, I thought it was a good quest all in all. And yeah, with that, it wraps up all 9 of the Tales of Tsushima side quests in Act 2. Again, this is not the main character ally side quest that you can do in Act 2. So I thought these were, all in all, again, I think these quests add a lot to the game. Some of them are short, some of them are longer. They take you to different places around Act 2, and I really like doing them. So, hey, y'all, I really hope you have enjoyed listening to this episode. I've been shocked how many people have been listening to this podcast, honestly. I knew people like this game, but it feels really like exciting and fun just to know that there's people out there who like it. So, hey, if you guys have any thoughts about anything, reach out to us on Blue Sky. We'll answer. Join the Robots Radio Discord channel and find the Ghost of Tsushima Yotei channel in there. And hey, we can talk and hang. So all the links to all that are in the show notes. Leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple. Just want to thank you all for listening, and we will be releasing more episodes soon, trying to wrap up Ghost of Tsushima and covering any more news about Ghost of Yotei. We are just about 1 month away from Ghost of Yotei release. Can't believe it. Can't wait. So thanks for listening, y'all, and I will talk to you soon.